Hey everybody, here's a little impromptu update, hopefully the final update on this story about the scammer who I took for a little ride but ended up costing me 40 smackaroos. So here's the basic premise of the story. This has been a very long story. There are videos that go into greater detail about this. There's a whole playlist for this that you can check out. We'll link to that up here. See the entire story in detail, but here's the basic premise of it. I was approached by who I figured out very, very quickly was a scammer, not really someone legitimate, wanted to hire me for photography services. They wanted to pay me by credit card. I figured this is going to be fun. Let's have some fun and see how far I can string this along. So I sent them an invoice. They paid the invoice by credit card. The money showed up in my account. Then naturally, they wanted me to go to my bank, take out cash, and take it to another bank and deposit cash into that bank account for any number of stupid reasons. Obviously, I never did any of that. As expected, the card turned out to be stolen. This is going to happen one of these days. I figured sooner or later that's going to happen. The credit card company is going to want their money back. So I had the money set aside in my bank. That did actually happen. The police actually, surprisingly enough, came knocking at my door trying to get to the bottom of it on their end because the person who had their credit card stolen had contacted local police, yada, yada. Anyway, that's not what this part of the story is about. This part of the story is about the actual charge that Visa took out of the initial $2,500 transaction that I'm not getting back. So here's how this went down. I sent an invoice for $2,500. They paid the $2,500. What lands in my account is $2,500, and then immediately is deducted the credit card processing fee, in this case turned out to be about $40. We'll call it 40. And then I took what was left of that, so $2,500 minus $40. I stuck it into another account for safekeeping, knowing that sooner or later somebody's going to want their money back. So that day came, and I got an email from Intuit merchant credit card services. That's where I do all my invoicing through. And they said this has been, it's a chargeback. It's deemed, I don't think they didn't even say it was fraudulent at that point, but whatever it was, chargeback. You have a couple days to dispute it, but then that same night, they took the $2,500 back, the full $2,500, plus an additional $25 chargeback fee. So at this point, I'm now out $40 for the initial fee, plus a $25 chargeback fee, $65. I'm like, that ain't cool. So I sent an email off to Intuit and say, hey, WTF, and I want that $25 back. Well, they did write back and say they would give me the $25 back out of a courtesy, but nothing about the 40. So I responded again saying, hey, what about that 40? Waited. And they never emailed back, so I finally got on the phone with them today. Boy, what an informational phone call this was. So here's what I learned. That $40, just to cut to the chase, I'm never seeing it. That money is never coming back to me. So that money is lost. That money is not kept by Intuit. I'm trying to figure out who has the money. Who has the $40? Is it Intuit who charged the credit card, or what? It says no, it's Visa. This is a Visa card, so Visa, MasterCard, merchant card services, but it's Visa in this case. They're the ones who get the money. Okay, why do they keep the money? Well, this is the fee that is charged for the act of processing the card, which they did, right? They processed the $2,500 card, charge on the card, that cost $40. Okay, seems a little extravagant, but that's a topic for another day. So they charged $40 off of this $2,500 charge, and that's the fee. And that's legit, right? That's the process that they went through and the charge that they charged. When they took the money back, there was a courtesy that they didn't charge me another $40 to reprocess it back again, because they decided it was fraudulent activity, whatever, so they're just going to take the money back. We're not going to charge you for that. Now, if I had gone in and said, no, I do believe this is fraudulent, I'm going to cancel the charge, then I would have had to have paid another $40, but I didn't do that. So we let it go through. We just let it play itself out. So they took the $2,500 back. I get stuck with the $40 hole in my bank account because of it. And according to Intuit, it is ultimately my responsibility to ensure that I'm not taking a stolen credit card. 100%, unequivocally, my responsibility. Now, how am I supposed to do that, you ask? Well, here's what they tell you. If you're doing a charge online, you're processing online, you're not in person, you're not meeting them in person, taking the credit card, verifying it's them, you should ask them to send you a photocopy, a picture of the front and back of the credit card and of their driver's license. So you can match the signature, the name, the billing address, and everything else. Mind you, doesn't matter if I have all this. If this is deemed to be a stolen credit card because the person who stole the credit card and is charging and is paying me $2,500, has any Photoshop skills whatsoever, they can very easily take a picture of any credit card, move the numbers around, make it look like the number of the card that they're giving me. Driver's license, I mean, come on, how hard is this? Photoshop, please, just click, you got it. I mean, they're not sending me an actual card, they're sending me a picture of a card, please. So I could do that. and have proof and decide, this looks good to me, I'm going to go ahead and charge you the $2,500. But I'd be wrong because it was a stolen card. Now, I could say to Intuit or to Visa, actually, I couldn't say to Visa. That's basically the equivalent of saying, no, call God. Their phone number's listed, right? There's no one to call at Visa. But if I did that and I had all that information and then it gets deemed fraudulent and Intuit calls me and says, what's the proof that this was a legitimate charge? And I show them the proof that this is a legitimate charge. They go, well, it's still a stolen credit card. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, what it comes down to is the only reason to do all that due diligence, the only reason at all, is so that I can feel confident about making the charge. If it turns out to be stolen, that's my problem. If the scammer, the person who stole the credit card and is trying to make a charge to my account with a stolen credit card, if they're any good with Photoshop, if they're a good scammer, a good con artist, that they can convince me that they are in fact using a legitimate card, it's my problem. That's it, 100% my problem. If they said, the lady on the phone at Intuit even said, if they say like, oh, you're talking to John and he says, oh, I'm using my wife Sue's credit card, well, you have to ask to put Sue on the phone, talk to Sue. I go, how is that going to help? Oh yeah, talk to Sue. Oh, hello, I'm Sue. Oh yes, oh, I've totally authorized the charge. Please, really? Like this is going to do anything? So Intuit doesn't keep the money. That goes to Visa. Visa keeps the money, even though I don't keep the money. I don't get my $2,500. And I said, as the lady said, well, if you have all the evidence, when we ask for evidence, you can submit that to us. And I go, oh, so then you get the $40 back? She goes, no, the $40 is never coming back. That's not coming back. But we try to get the $2,500 back. I go, minus the 40, obviously. Oh, wait a minute. So you're telling me that if this turned out to be a stolen card, legitimately stolen card, and I show you sufficient proof, because I got documents that prove that it was this person's card, that you would fight to get my $2,500 back? Oh, no, we can't do that. Well, then what are you going to do? Well, ultimately, nothing. The only reason that would be useful is if the person used their card legitimately, but then changed their mind. And, let's say that they hired me and I said, okay, we're booked. Here's the $2,500. And then they said, oh, I changed my mind. And I said, sorry, it's according to the agreement. You don't get your money back. And then they decided to just call fraud. And then I'd say, okay, I got this document that proves that they legitimately did it. And then I'd get to keep the money because it was a real card. But in the case of a stolen card, nope, all that evidence doesn't do anything. Ultimately, you as a business owner, you who is taking credit cards, even though you're using an online processing service whose sole purpose in life is to process credit cards online, it's up to you, the business owner, the person taking the credit card, to ensure that this is legitimate. Now, let's forget about the part of the story that I knew it was fraud in the beginning. I mean, I knew that. So I knew what I was getting into. But the whole reason I did this is kind of an investigative journalism thing to see how far this would go. And oh boy, am I glad that I did. Because even though it cost me $40, I learned a lot. And hopefully this will help some of you out there. The fact that I am still out this $40 because I didn't do my due diligence, and like I said, even if I had, I would still be out of it, I find very interesting. So if anybody out there is watching this who works for Visa or any of these card processing companies or card companies and can explain to me more clearly why I should pay this bill, I would love to hear that. Because let's face it, I'm the small businessman. I'm the one who's using your services and paying a high premium, I might add, to use that service, right? I pay a monthly fee to the credit card processing company. I pay a per transaction fee every time somebody uses a credit card. I pay for that. So on the one time and it's a percentage of what they're paying me, so I get it. That's called, you pay me $100, they get a percentage of that. I get that. But when I don't get to keep the money, is that really my cost of doing business? Or should that be Visa's cost of doing business? That's their business. Running credit cards is not my business. I'm a photographer. I don't run credit cards. That's not my business. So why do I have to take the risk on that? Shouldn't the card company, shouldn't Visa, or maybe it's Intuit in this case, assume the risk for that? When there is a problem, they're the ones who pay the fee. It's like an insurance policy. I'm paying $40 per $2,500 transaction, so on the off chance that one comes by where I don't get to keep the $2,500, I don't get charged the $40 either. They've already made $40 tens of hundreds of thousands of times. They can afford to lose a $40 on this one. But what about me? Why do I have to pay the $40? It's an interesting idea, interesting concept. I don't really think I get it. I don't really think it's fair. But hey, maybe I'm just looking at it from the little business perspective and not thinking of it big business like. But you tell me what you think. Tell me in the comments, tell me what you think. Tell me if you've had a transaction like this, if you have a story to tell like this. I'd love to hear it. If anybody knows Casey and I said over at Beam, doing the whole Beam story, I think that this would be a fantastic Beam story. Not necessarily my story, but the story of credit card fraud and what happens when things like this go down. Where does this start? Where does it end? What's the agency of the group of people behind the stolen credit cards? Is it, one guy, or is it like a major organization that is stealing cards, has people stealing cards, running these scams? I'd really be interested to know. I think this is a huge story. And let's follow that story all the way to the end where we're sitting right now, a small business owner screwed out of 40 bucks because he assumed that the sale was legitimate. Okay, I know the sale was legitimate. I knew that in the first place, but that's beside the point. Maybe I didn't know. You tell me what you think. Leave it in the comments. Let me know. See you next time. Bye-bye.